What's going on? You guys are back. Welcome back to Voices for KERN, led by Time for Change. These beautiful young souls right here. I'm your / moderator, Jovon Dangerfield, also known as Executive Director, also known as the Assassin. Also, no, I'm just playing. I wish. That'd be cool, huh? I've had like a dope name.
Kind of terrifying.
I know.
Scary.
The Assassin of Injustice.
Okay.
Hit me!
Okay.
The last name is already Dangerfield. You want to add assassin on that too?
No. I might get arrested. Speaking of justice, we had a crazy opportunity, right? So I get the call from the Attorney General's office, Department of Justice, maybe like 2 months ago, and they're like, we want to come work with you guys on youth initiatives. And I was like, what, for real? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So then we kept connecting. He came down here and met, saw the operation, loved what we did, and wanted us to be the leaders of hosting a conversation around youth, a youth roundtable, if you will. Mm-hmm. And we had a time. Mm-hmm. You guys came in like the Clippers, which is good, Crystal. You guys came in ready to play ball. And I just want to come right now and touch on some of the stuff that happened. But I also can't go without introducing everybody, including my beloved co-moderator. This man is the myth, the legend, the winner. He is as old as time, but as new as air. Huh?
You're overhyping me, Jovon.
This man had 10 rebounds last night. 40 points. It's my guy, Dylan. Make some noise for Dylan. Damn! Dylan, how you doing?
I'm good, Jovon. How are you?
I'm good. Are you ready to get the pod cracking?
I am ready.
It's about to be cracking. You're too excited. Take a drink. No, I'm just kidding.
So yesterday, we were at the youth Department of Justice conversation with the youth. It was about maybe like 40 youth and their own individual nonprofits coming by at our office here at Time for Change.
Yeah.
How'd you guys feel like coming
Let's
in?
introduce him.
Oh, okay, yeah, really introduce.
He's ready to take off running, which is dope. But let's introduce him. You guys know her. The woman, the legend, Shirley Chisholm. She's ready to rock and roll. She's a future beast. She's so smart. She's so brilliant. CiCi, make some noise.
Hi guys.
Yeah. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I was really happy to have this opportunity and be a part of the conversation. It was a really big opportunity, and I know a lot of youth don't really get to voice their opinions to the DOJ, especially in their states. So I feel like that was a really big opportunity for us, and I'm super, super excited that it happened.
Yeah. Word on the street is you're an intern now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got hired on as an intern.
Oh.
KCF, making them big bucks now. So yeah.
CiCi lives in a mansion in the Hollywood Hills now.
I got a Porsche. I got SRT, like big balling, you know.
There you go. Well, welcome. It's always good to have you, CiCi. I'm sure the audience is familiar with you and your many takes on life and your insightful approach. So we're gonna rock right now.
Pass it off to the beautiful.
Introduce her. Yeah, do it. Introduce her.
Gas her
We
up.
got one of our youth volunteers,
Yeah.
Lorenza. She was also part of the DOJ conversation.
Yeah.
She came in with some banger topics. She really tore it up. It was super, super nice. So let's pass it over to Lorenza.
She's super smart. How you doing?
Thank you. Hi, I'm doing good. I'm Lorenza. I've been a Time for Change volunteer for about a year and a half. Yesterday we had a really interesting opportunity with DOJ, getting to talk to them about things that concerns us and hearing everybody else and, what they think, and it was really cool.
We ready?
You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this. Okay, so we're in the game. We come in. Now, there's all these organizations, right? Mm-hmm. There was other organizations such as, I want to say, Community Interventions, Faith in the Valley.
I know Visión en Compromiso was there.
Visión Compromiso was there. I want to say some people from Dolores Huerta were there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was super diverse. Mm-hmm. It was different ages. It was LGBTQ. It was everything, right?
Many different takes.
And we all came in, and then he asks a question, and I just want to start right there. Share something you are passionate about fighting for. Who wants to take it? Just to catch them up. This is what Time for Change produced in the session that was just in here. In front of the Assistant Attorney General. Mm-hmm. The one that makes it happen. What you got?
So we did a lot of research. I specifically want to shout out Kylie, Lori, and Victor for helping us with our research. I feel like I would not have been as prepared as I was, and I'm sure that they could say the same without their help. But to answer that first question, I put for one of my passions, specifically pertaining to the Department of Justice, I talked about being passionate about the protection of like communities, youth communities, marginalized communities, and also the protection of law enforcement officers to make sure that we're being protected and served the correct way. And I think that was something that was really good that I brought up. But yeah,
I was going to talk a little bit more about that. What was on your heart when you were thinking of this, and we can jump into it a little bit.
well, being someone who comes from like a more less fortunate community, growing up in like the east side of Bakersfield with like my grandma and my cousins, it was definitely very difficult for me. And I've seen a lot of my my uncles and more of my male, I would say, family members get treated differently by law enforcement officers and like city officials. So it kind of came from like a place of my heart, but I didn't want to come off as like angry, because I wanted to come off as more passionate than angry, because I wanted to be actually listened to. But I definitely came from a place of
That's a bars. Can you talk about that for a minute?
I feel like in my life, or like me being a little bit younger, I would definitely come off when something was on my heart, I would definitely come off as more of angry, because it was so personal to me. But being in a situation where you're talking to the people who are in charge, they don't want to be yelled at. You have to talk in a sense that they're going to listen, like they're bringing us together for a youth, basically youth conference to talk about things that we need. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be willing to give us those things, but, asking nicely, speaking with respect, understanding what you're talking about is definitely like three things that was big on me for, for this meeting. But, I try to like move my view over to be a little bit more passionate and less angry about it, because of course they're going to listen to us. They're taking notes, they're understanding our points, they agree with a lot of the things that we're saying. So I didn't want to come off in the sense of like, oh yeah, she's a mad, angry, young person. I want to be like, she's an educated person and she understands what she's talking about. So we're going to give her the opportunity to speak, and we're going to listen to the problems that these communities have. So
That's a bar. It reminds me of when I was younger. Something that revolutionized my life, and really realizing how to use my voice was like, I used to like hit doors like in the house or whatever, like shut up, and then I like get angry a lot, and I start yelling at people, right? And when I was in my emotional psych class, they told me that anger was the easiest emotion to show, because it's the only one that's not perceived as weak, but it's actually because it's the easiest, actually the weakest people and fragilely use anger to get out of stuff, to get into stuff, and to change things, but never end up accomplishing any of the three. All the other emotions are perceived to be weaker, but always bring people in closer. So after that, I was just like, I'm sad, and they were like, why, Jovon? I was like, like, this works better than being angry. So for you to be a young Black woman and know that is kudos. Let's give it up for CiCi. Talking about policing, I know I've been put on the curb a couple times. I just recently got a new car, and they were looking at me like I stole it. I'm not gonna say nothing else, but it was still feeling. No matter how far you get, you're driving around with hair and brown skin can still get you into some trouble, and that ain't cool. So no shade to all police, but I want to see more good policing too.
Right.
And it's okay to ask that. Why do we always feel like ashamed to ask for good policing? You guys want to touch on that? Why does that feel like you don't know if you're supposed to ask for that or not? Like good policing? Like why do you think that is?
Maybe because we're not used to it, good policing.
I feel like Dylan touched a lot on that, especially because he was talking about having a good relationship with law enforcement.
Right.
So-
Well, kind of in the same world as world that CiCi was talking about in law enforcement. I answered with, I am passionate about strengthening the positive relationship between law enforcement and the community, and that's really important to me, because if I ever growing up also on the east side, I want to make sure that I'll call the police to handle like a challenging situation appropriately. I don't want to call someone that misjudges a situation, calls poor shots or anything like that, and knows how to handle things like correctly or appropriately. That's really important to me.
That's amazing, Dylan. Thank you for adding that, because do you want to share anything on policing, or why that conversation is so taboo? Like why do we feel like we can't talk about it, or we feel like we're doing wrong by mentioning it?
I think the problem is like the authority we feel that police have over us.
Exactly.
And we feel like, they're kind of untouchable. They can't, they're an organization that it's so hard to hold them accountable for the things that they've done in the past, and I mean, you're either gonna listen. They're the person with a weapon, with a gun.
Exactly.
It's their word over yours every
Exactly.
time. So of course we're gonna feel scared to like come up to them and tell them like, you know what, we think you should be doing your job better.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, especially like, you know, them being like the Department of Justice. I'm talking specifically about the opposition. Because I kept hearing, you know, the highest serving law enforcement. And I feel like if I said like, hey, like maybe the guys who are under you should do better, it kind of feels like I'm like trying to stick a, you know, it kind of feels like I'm trying to poke at them a little bit.
does.
But then again, like protecting communities, I feel like it kind of starts with that, you know? Like you can't give somebody a weapon and they don't, you know, you got somebody with a weapon and somebody who doesn't necessarily like this person, it's going to be a clash all the time. And it kind of leads me to my next point of being like, you know, making sure they're being evaluated, making sure that they have a connection with the community that they're serving. So it's not just a bunch of, you know, random people, you know, on a force with a gun that can just do whatever they want. I feel like they're, you know, authority, which they are, but properly, you know,
Right,
be
right.
authoritarian properly, you know?
I think they need to brand themselves as public servants because
That's
that's what
what
they
they
are.
are. Yeah.
Peacekeepers.
But
Yeah.
the rebrand was like. No, no shade, because I know a lot of great
Right.
police. So it's not that. It's just the fact that I I remember I was doing bad in school at one point, and I was in the counselor's office, and me and my mom were beefing like a lot at home, and that's why I was having such a hard time. But she was in the meeting, and the counselor's like, "Why are you having such a hard time in school?" And I was just like, you know, because she was there, and
Yeah.
every time we want to talk about the police, and not in a bad way, it feels like, dude, am I gonna get myself in trouble?
Yeah.
Or am I gonna cause myself some issues? And that shouldn't be the vibes on a public servant, if you ask me. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Did you feel heard when you brought that up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel heard?
Yeah, I did.
Good.
I did, for sure.
It looked like Damon and them were really listening.
Yeah, I really appreciate Damon for you know, because even after the conference or whatever, we had went to him and asked him questions because I had a lot of questions.
Yeah, of course.
And I went on the website, the DOJ website for California, and I did a lot of research, and there was some stuff that I could not find. Like, you know, if they receive evaluations, what type of mental health training they have for police officers to make sure that they're mentally stable to do those types of jobs so that, you know, when they're going out in their communities, they're not having that distress on their mind. And, you know, sometimes it takes one little thing to tick off somebody, especially somebody with a weapon.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, do you guys have these type of trainings for them? And I found out that they necessarily don't. They do it in the beginning, the initial, you know, initiation or whatever, but after that, it's just kind of like, here you go, like off into your community. And I feel like that's kind of scary because, you know, there's a lot of stuff that happens, you know, with police officers. And I'm not here to be, oh, bad cops, bad cops, bad cops. We need cops to influence as like to go through as a society.
For sure.
I'm just saying that if you're going to be giving somebody this type of power, make sure they're able to handle that type of power. You know, make sure they're mentally stable, make sure they're emotionally stable, make sure that they're following, you know, the rules, the penal codes, the stuff that you guys put in place for them to follow so that it's not, you know, community versus cops, you know?
Good
I don't want it to be
stuff.
like that.
Come on, activist CiCi. Get in your bag right now. Why are you not snapping? Oh, you're
I'm
snapping.
snapping.
Activist CiCi. Good stuff, man. I think that you guys really did it in a good way. I think you guys brought the point home without sounding like you were angry. I think one of the things about BLM during 2020 was people weren't hearing Black Lives Matter right off the rip for a couple reasons, but one of them was that they were like really angry.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to talk to me about the police when I got this stolen TV from Walgreens in my hand from looting. It's like nobody's gonna want to have that convo now. I just stole a PlayStation 5. Like, so I think you guys coming to the table and being smart and informed. And somebody cited like a penal code. I think that was you.
Oh,
I was like, get in your bag right now.
like three of them.
You got a lot of
they were
research.
telling me
Very
like,
good.
Get in your bag.
they were like, how did you know that? And they were writing it down as I'm writing it. And he was looking it up on his phone like, oh, she knows.
Get
this.
in your
And I was
bag.
like,
When you did that, I was like, hey,
I was like, AB 953. And he was like, what do you know about the Assembly Bill 953? And I was like, yeah. I literally wrote the definitions and
talk
everything.
about it.
Because I wanted to
Talk about the penal code.
Okay, so basically they have multiple assembly bills, policies, and penal codes. And my point was for the evaluations to understand that for the police officers to understand the assembly bills and the policies and penal codes, because they're always changing. They're always updating something. There's always something new that's going into the, the DOJ website. And it's just to make sure that the education that police officers have is updated to what, what they know and what we know. So if you guys have like a penal code, so for example, AB 71 is law enforcement agencies are required to report incidents of use of force by a civilian or a peace officer. A lot of those don't get reported. So it's like the people that they're hiring, the people that are in these law enforcement agencies are not following the assembly bills, policies, and penal codes. How can that be a righteous person? How can that be a person who's able to like serve for their community if they're not following the rules that they're given?
Wow.
I'm not saying that every cop doesn't do it, but for those who do, what's the penalty for that? What type of reform are they looking into?
Yeah.
What type of evaluations can be put into place for that?
Wow.
There's just a lot of different stuff that I was looking at, but yeah, they were definitely surprised when I was like 935.23, and they were like, "Ooh, write that down."
Is you a lawyer or what? Ready to start
It
getting
was
cracking?
super,
You can still
super
do whatever you want too. You go, girl. Dylan, what you got, man? Any other topics that you brought up that you were passionate about? Or?
Yeah, I mean, he also asked us another question: is what are one of the biggest challenges you think youth are facing in California? And he was asking all the youth, what could the Department of Justice do to address those issues? And I answered with, one of the biggest challenges my generation is facing in California is trusting those trying to protect them, those being law enforcement police officers. And to address this issue, the DOJ should reflect on what qualities make a police officer trustworthy in handling challenging situations in the eyes of the community. Kind of having like the police officers, they're going to have their own standard of policing, but they need to be living up to the community standard of policing. They have to see in our eyes, not their eyes.
Come on, Dylan. You better snap.
I ask myself this question all the time: do law enforcement really care about our well-being? Why was it? And then after this, I talked about an incident that occurred on March 13th that I witnessed firsthand. On March 13th, I went to a city council meeting and I witnessed pro-Palestinian protesters accused of Officer Keith Schleth of being a murderer, and the officer responding with, "Yes, I am." You seen that clip?
To my inbox.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you gonna do about it? Me? Yeah.
It's crazy. And the whole time I attended that meeting, Jovon, it looked like he was enjoying his time rallying up the protesters and even
Oh, you were there?
Yeah, I was there. The whole time I witnessed that guy just kind of seeming like he was rallying up the protesters, enjoying his time, kind of making like these smug expressions on his face. It just wasn't appropriate at all. I didn't think it was.
Yeah.
It was.
You could have riled them up to the point of violence.
Yeah.
Right.
They're already out there ready to get down.
And then what are they gonna do? Protesters being angry, blah blah blah. But you don't see
beating them up with
you
that.
don't
Yeah,
see the
so, yeah.
beforehand though. So
So you saw him making smug faces during the camera and all that stuff?
Yeah, and it was right outside the Bakersfield City Hall doors. Like, why was he so comfortable making those comments right outside the city where the city council members' vicinity? That's my question.
Yeah, we can't have. That's another standard, a higher standard for you. That you can't be in your feelings, acting like playing back and forth. You have a gun legally. Like, it's just a whole new thing. What do you think Bakersfield needs to do besides what we've already talked about, to really get the heart of the people and really understand? Because I know they're trying to do some good stuff. I've seen them at schools, I've seen them at community events, I see them trying to mix it up a little bit. I want to think that that's for good purpose, right? So any other ideas about what we can do?
I was saying to build better community relationship with community stakeholders, like people who have a lot of like influence in the community, whether it's like nonprofits or like yourself.
Time for change.
Yeah, like building
Come on over here.
like building relationships with the people that are making change in the community, so that communities will feel more comfortable having like city officials or police officers there. So when it's the type of thing where if we go to an event and I see like a cop car, like I'm immediately like, oh my gosh, the cops are here. But
You got a warrant.
change that around. But like change that around to where like we're at a community event, and in case something goes wrong, we're like, yeah, we have the police here, we're good. Like seeing it in a different light. But I feel like you just have to build those relationships, and people have to find trust. And there hasn't been trust for a long time.
Yeah.
So
What do you think about this on our end? When I see a police officer, should we be in the more of the mindset of not like, oh, they're here, but who is that police officer? Like, who is that guy? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't like our like overgeneralization of everything in this era. Like all this is that, all this is that, all this is that. Like that's the same problem that contributed to the racism that we currently experience.
Because
is
it's
the
dangerous
overgeneralization.
generalizing.
Yeah, all black people are thugs, and you
Yeah.
pull me over and realize, nah, you might as well let me go. I ain't doing nothing. But do we not do it in return? Do we not
Yeah.
look
Yeah,
at all
we
cops like
definitely
the
do.
same?
Yeah.
You know, so. I just want to know the content of the guy's character that's pulling me over. Because if I see that he's cool, as soon as I'll roll my window down, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what other topics came up during? I know that one was a big one, so I wanted to spend some time with that. But what else you got?
I was talking about like one of the biggest issues I think that is facing our generation is social media, you know, and how harmful it is to, you know,
Oh yeah, you got in your bag on that.
young people. And I have like family members who are younger and seeing, you know, like they're stunted not only in their education, physically, mentally, like they're so worried about, you know, the world that revolves them in social media. And it harms them in so many different ways. I brought attention to a story that actually happened here in KERN. It's really sad.
Go ahead.
So there was this girl, her name is Patricia La Torre. She was 13 years old. And through social media, she was able to come into contact with a 24-year-old man who she did not know him, he did not know her family, but he was able to convince her to trust him enough so she could leave her house, sneaking out, to meet him.
Oh,
Unfortunately, she was murdered.
I remember that story.
Yeah. And it was, you know, a lot of people, there's like a lot of debate, like, oh, well, who's accountable? Who's responsible for, you know, something like this happening? And they're like, where were the parents, you know? But the parents can only do so much. Like, how is it possible for them to not know that a 24-year-old man is reaching their daughter? And
Wow.
I think that we've gotten to a point, at least with how integrated social media is in our lives, that, you know, there has to, like, the law has to catch up to it at this point. You know, it shouldn't be possible for some stranger to, you know, have contact with my siblings, my cousins, you know, myself. And I feel like they should,
You think they should regulate it more?
I think there should be more regulation in that.
That's good. That's amazing. What do you guys think about that?
I think she ate really good on her points, and
Yeah.
she brought up
She
a
ate.
point.
She ate really good.
She ate. But she was. I wanted to hear you talk more about like the Meta stuff, and they already have that lawsuit, right?
So they already, the reason why I think California or like the DOJ can do anything about it is because I already see them like trying to. Like the Attorney General, Rob Montahi, already filed a lawsuit against Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. And he, the lawsuit was about them maximizing like the algorithms or whatever to get these kids addicted to social media and holding them accountable for that. And it's to their detriment. Like social media is not good for these kids,
Right.
And he knows that, he recognized that, and that's what the lawsuit was for. He wants them to update the information that they're allowed to keep for minors. He wants them to update like them not being so encouraged to stay on those platforms.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
I'm going to ask questions. I have questions. Okay. If Krispy Kreme is harmful, but they make it look so good, and they make you go up there and it gets everybody fat and destroys their health, should the government regulate that? Yeah?
Yeah, it's
So you're
supposed to.
so cool. So you feel like the government should regulate. Now I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick because there's a whole section of people.
No, that's fine.
No, this is dope, right? Because I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I know a lot of people think I'm a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat. Yeah. I'm independent. I just vote for whoever I like. I know who I'm voting for this time because the options are slim. But with that being said, I'm independent. So I hear both sides of the arguments a lot, and I'm like, okay, what about when people say that the problem with the government regulating everything is that the government doesn't know when to stop regulating. So the government jumps in and we're like, yeah, this is cool. But then next thing you know, they're like too much into your life now. And then that takes away the whole idea or the premise that the Constitution was founded upon, because we were supposed to have a certain amount of freedom to manage our own lives. And if we couldn't manage our life and it results in our deaths because I can't stop smoking cigs, or I can't stop eating Krispy Kreme, or I want to be on the internet, that's a personal choice, and that I should be allowed to make my personal choices to my own detriment and not have the government tell me how to live my life. What do you guys think? I really want to know what Generation Z thinks about this.
I agree. Like, no, that's completely right. Like, there's a saying in Spanish que el que por su gusto muere hasta la muerte le sabe. Like, if you're going to die by what you like, you're going to do it, However, we're talking about children
For facts.
and their protection of children. And so
facts.
while I think that the government shouldn't be involved so much in what we do in our day-to-day lives, I do think that there should be protections available, when things like this happen to prevent them.
It's a bar. I like it. Now, where do you think the government should stop and start as it pertains to social media? Like, should like the government put out like a 9 o'clock curfew? Like Facebook, turn off the lights. Or whatever. Like, what do you think? And if you don't have answers, that's cool. But this is just a good convo.
I just think it's like really nuanced, like really a really complicated situation there because we can ask the government to come in and do all these regulations, but we're also they also like it's like you said, they won't know when to stop, and that's where we're gonna come in and be like, hey, I know we asked for this, but just chill out for a little
This
bit.
is too late, I think, sometimes. Yeah, because they're already involved.
Right.
A good example of this, before we get too far into it, but a good example was during COVID, where the government had started making those edicts about who could go out. And then some people were like, they were scared anyway, so they were like, I'm going to die. But some people were like, you can't tell me I can't leave my house.
Yeah.
Like, so that was a good example of what a certain sect of people are afraid of, right? They're afraid of martial law coming and saying, you can't leave your house. Or during wartime, this is safe, do this, eat this, only to come out 20 years later and be like, nah, this is dangerous, or it wasn't so good. So I think there's a lot of trust, and I'm gonna say it, that people, to like Republican people, a lot of trust that they don't have in the government, and they feel like it would be better in their hands to make their own choices. And then you have more of the Democratic side, which I understand them both, but I just feel like y'all need to find a way to get along. But the Democratic side is more like, we need the government to manage our lives. So, like, that just thought it was an interesting concept.
The only reason why I bring up that the government should get involved is the problem is that social media is used as a tool by anyone. So the problem, like I said, it's one of the many dangers. The story that I had said, it's only one.
Yeah.
Because it could be like a stranger coming like into your home through social media, or it could be the parents themselves using social media as a tool to exploit their family, their children, putting them in front of the camera for monetary gain. And
it's addictive.
Do the children have a choice in like whether or not they want to make content? No.
They just make them.
And like, what if they grow up and they're like, you know what? I didn't want my whole life like on camera. I didn't want so many people knowing who I was, what I look like.
That's crazy.
So that's why I think like, I agree that people should be able to have some control in their lives, but I also think that it's time to hold, accountable the platforms that we are using that make,
They're getting rich off
Yeah.
that stuff too.
Yeah.
Wow. Come on, Lorenza. Bars. All right. So, one last thing to touch on. How did it feel for you to be speaking in front of the Department of Justice? How did it feel for you to be speaking your truth, that your voice mattered in front of them?
I felt heard. It felt really productive, and I was really glad that Mr. Brown, he was listening, he was taking notes, and he took the time to, after the whole meeting ended, he took the time to talk to all of us, and it was just, I felt really heard that day.
Straight up. And yourselves?
I had a really good time. It was super, super nice. I was really excited to hear everyone else's perspectives because obviously we weren't the only youth who attended.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of different, nonprofit organizations, and everybody had different points. Everybody had great points, but I really, really, really enjoyed being able to speak my mind and come across in a sense of not being angry but being passionate.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they listened and they took notes and they paid attention to us. So.
For facts. How about yourself?
No, it was really interesting. I'm really glad that, we were given the opportunity to come and present these issues ourselves, be a part of the conversation. And I mean, just hearing everything from our peers, people came from out of town to come and sit at this table to listen. So it was just it was a good opportunity to come and just, talk and be heard.
So how about same crew, next time we do a part 2 to this same thing and keep exhausting some of the issues and see what Gen Z thinks.
I'm down.
Yeah, you guys down? I think we should keep it going. Let's ask one of the producers. Hey!
Yeah.
I love this guy. Shout out to AJ Smith behind the camera making it crack all the time.
Shout out
Shooter,
to
producer.
Yanira, who is not at this table because
She was there.
Yeah,
and she brought some great
off.
points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got her bars off. She did. She's in the background right now.
Yeah, she did amazing.
Everybody that really did it. I'll start crying, so I don't got time, but I was behind y'all crying. I'm so proud, okay? I appreciate you guys. You just heard from Time for Change. With your boy Joe.
Dylan.
CiCi.
Lorenza.
We out.